Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our first live edition of the Panjwai podcast that we have done in quite some time. We apologize for being AFK, but we do have lives, and believe it or not, we've been enjoying them without having to worry too much about the podcast the last couple months. But we are gearing up for season 3. We are excited for season 3. We are recording episodes again, and what better time to do another live stream episode? So those of us joining us live, we're happy to see you, and we want you to participate today because we're talking about something really fun. If those of you that joined us for the movies episode, that was a blast, just tearing apart The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30 and all these terrible military movies. But if you watched, you noticed we took a step back when it came to TV shows. Today, they're all fucking fair game. We are going to destroy how Hollywood and film studios have been portraying the military on television and give credit where credit is due. So, if you're following us, be sure to hit like and subscribe if you're not already, and be sure to join on with us in the comments, offer your feedback, offer your 2 cents. And hey, if you want to join us, shoot us an email to thepanjwaipodcast@gmail.com. We'll bring you on. You can give us your 2 cents for a couple minutes. So,
Indeed. As the poet said, we're back in the saddle again.
back in the saddle again. All right, so we'll get into the nitty gritty on the TV show stuff here in a second. But are you watching any like military themed TV shows right now?
No, I mean, you know me, man. I don't do military. Like, I just talked to the Boardwalk guys at the Boardwalk podcast last night. No, 2 nights ago. I did a recording with them because they wanted to talk about Iraq and stuff. And those guys are really heady and smart dudes, and so they're connecting all the names and the different parts of Iraq and the different ethnicities and stuff like that. And I was like, boys, like I purged all that from my mind on March 31st, 2013. So no, the short answer is no, I'm not, because I try not to watch a lot of military themed stuff, especially shows, because they take commitment.
They do, especially if they're terrible. You know,
yeah, which most of them are,
and most of them are. And we will crush the ones that deserve it. But there have been some out there that actually have been surprising, have made a genuine attempt to be in some way. So they deserve some credit. But I think in general, it's hard to do a long form television series about the military because the 2% of the time that the military is cool is the only thing that's really worth putting on television.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to see the show of dudes, standing in formation for 4 hours waiting on the battalion commander to take a shit because he's all clogged up from eating cheese from lunch or something, Or how many times can you put the Bradley online before you go on your 4-day pass?
Right. Or how many? Yeah. Who wants to see a TV show about compiling the 22-page packet that it requires to go see your family?
Yeah, exactly.
So like that's the military life. So that doesn't really translate well. So what a lot of shows do is they either A, they make it seem way cooler than it really is, or B, they try to add like this like element of like a soap opera drama. And when I think about that, I think about The Unit.
The Unit is a great example of
great example because if The Unit just focused on the Delta operators, it would have been really good. I mean, they had like Eric Haney, who wrote the book Delta Force, was an advisor on the show. They went through and all those guys did like a whole bunch of training, and when they did the operational portions of it, it was kind of fun.
They
to
look
watch.
good, yeah. It was entertaining.
Convincing.
It was fun. That you can they look good behind the gun. Even though my favorite thing about The Unit is that somehow for some reason every planet or every country in the world looks suspiciously like Southern California.
Well, SEAL Team has the same issue. Pretty much every military TV show is going to have that because there's only so many places that have like the trainers, the weapons, and like access to like Black Hawk helicopters and stuff like that. Like,
and it's TV too, so they don't have buckets of money, Right.
So they're just gonna go down to like Southern California and be like, hey, just shoot it there. They make it look like Afghanistan.
And when it's in Eastern Europe, there's like the gray filter. When they're in the Middle East, it's like the orange filter,
But I'll tell you this, I don't know if you remember Stargate.
Every planet in the galaxy.
Every planet looks like Vancouver.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a funny thing. And every time they jump through the Stargate, they were on a planet that looks suspiciously like Vancouver.
Now, actually, yeah, I'm glad that we mentioned Stargate because Stargate is one of my favorite TV shows, and I feel like Stargate deserves a reboot.
It really does because that was a good show.
It's a
Now, I
really
will
good
say,
show.
if you go back and watch it, when I go back and watch it now, I gave it the old college try a while back, and I couldn't quite get through it because it was a little too corny for me.
It's a little bit too corny. I think it could do like a very hyper realistic reboot.
Hmm.
No, you can't replace Richard Dean Anderson. Like that is an
Yeah,
irreplaceable character.
yeah,
But like, imagine if instead of like, oh, the Air Force Security Forces is going out and seizing the galaxy, like, what if it's Delta going out and seizing the galaxy,
yeah,
or like SEAL Team 6, and they're going out with the CIA and they're performing like covert operations? Like, it's like,
yeah.
but I mean, more realistic. Because like, let's be real. If we had a portal to the other side of the galaxy in the bottom of a mountain
Hmm.
in fucking Colorado, it wouldn't be like the U.S. Air Force Security Forces going through that thing.
No, no, it's
Like
gonna
they'd
be
be
Epcot.
guarding it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely gonna be super soupy dudes all kitted out. I mean, it'd be interesting to see a reboot because in a way, that's definitely a military show, but it's a
Absolutely, yeah.
pre 9/11, pre 9/11 military
Pre
show,
and post.
pre and
Pre and
post. So it
post.
straddled it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just me and my brother-in-law now, but my buddy then Jordan, we were obsessed with that show for like a solid year,
It was a
and
good show.
we were like really wanting the green jumpsuits and P90s, man. I wanted a P90 so bad, and I had a P90 airsoft gun.
Me too. I bought it for that exact same
I did
reason.
too, yeah. And I never had enough money to get a good jumpsuit, but I'd look at them on the internet, and that was back in the day when they had like the little black vest with like the weird little patch here, and
Yeah.
it had like
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh my god. Anyways,
So good.
we've already taken a divergent, but
Oh man. But
maybe
the other thing that was weird about that show, as far as like, it, is that the U.S. Air Force, like, was heavily involved in that show
yeah.
because it made the Air Force look really good. So like by
Mhm.
the time it was done, like Richard Dean Anderson is an honorary general in the United
What?
States Air Force because of that show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like
I never
the Secretary of the Air Force is in several episodes.
really.
The
Oh
acting
man,
Secretary of the Air Force, like they went all in on it. I love it.
they were trying to pull a Top Gun,
Hey,
get their own recruiting. There's actually there's an interesting topic too. It's like this tradition of the military and Hollywood like working together on projects. Like this is not unheard of. Like it's been going on for a long time.
yeah,
So it's funny how the military sees these opportunities to essentially create a sexy campaign for recruitment without having to shell out as much money. So they take advantage of it.
yeah, and I feel like you see that more in film, but I think you're starting to see it more in television series. I think
Hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if the U.S. Navy has some sort of official involvement in SEAL Team, which we'll talk about SEAL Team later. But yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity for younger people just to get an idea. Hopefully, they understand it's not accurate,
Hmm.
but it's an idea of what would life be as a Delta operator. Well, actually, it's probably nothing like that, but or a
Yeah,
SEAL as a Navy SEAL. What is my life going to be like? I'm going to jump out of planes and swim through the water and shoot bad people in the face. Great. Um,
probably not now, but not as
who,
much.
who knows? I'm not a Navy SEAL. Never was.
If you get lucky, you might get to go to like Somalia or Yemen or something.
Maybe, yeah. So let's. I
Um,
guess let's jump into the bad before we give kudos to the good.
okay. So,
Um,
what's the worst military show you think you've ever seen?
the worst military show I've ever seen. Man, there are some bad ones.
There's some bad ones.
Valor is by far the worst thing I've ever seen.
That doesn't jog a bell for me.
That's a good thing. Valor is a CW series.
Ooh, bad, rough.
It's a bad start, right? About a fictional version of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment.
Really. I want to watch this show now, or maybe the first
Oh,
episode. It's so bad.
if you make it through the first episode, I'll give you $20.
Really.
The whole gist is, so there's a chick. I don't know if she's an officer or a warrant officer, but she's a pilot.
Hmm.
She's banging her co-pilot, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Of course. You
Can't
know,
just be a
can't
badass
can't
female
just
pilot
be a
out there.
badass
doing,
female pilot. She's
Yeah.
got to be banging her coworker.
Yeah.
Which I'll take this opportunity to call out Hollywood. You can't like demand equality of access and all this stuff, and then literally write these stereotypes into every fucking script.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
so bullshit. I know so many female pilots that are not banging their coworkers.
Yeah. Not
Like,
sucking their commander's dick.
it doesn't. I mean, I won't say it doesn't happen, but it's if you don't want people to think that's what women in the military do, don't
Uh-huh.
put it on fucking television.
Yeah, the unit was bad for that.
Oh
The
gosh,
unit was
yeah.
basically a soap opera with guns, really.
We will give the unit its fair due because it kind of straddles the line. But
Yeah.
worst, definitely Valor. Some honorable mentions out there. Um, there was a show, I can't remember what it was called. It came out around the same time as SEAL Team. It was called like The Detachment or something like that, and it was really dumb.
Mm.
I made it through one episode, and then there was another show. What was another bad one?
See, I don't have the bad ones because if they weren't
Because you wouldn't
worth the
even watch
shit, I
them.
didn't even start watching. Like I pretty much only watched the good TV shows, military TV shows.
Oh well, give me a bad. I mean, you got to have a bad one.
Not still. There's two SEAL Team ones. There's one that the History Channel did.
6. Yeah.
That one was pretty hokey.
It was pretty hokey.
Little hokey.
It was kind of gritty though, which I
Was it?
appreciated. But I watched the first season. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm good.
24.
Over there, Tom, send us an email and hop on with us.
Yeah, Tommy.
Yeah, Tom Evans, come join us and tell us about Over There because I have never heard of that.
I think
which
that
means
was
it's probably terrible.
that's a fairly. That's. I'm gonna do some googling here. I think that was a fairly recent show, right?
I have no idea.
Over There. TV show.
Is this a fictional?
Oh yeah, that looked pretty bad. I remember. It's jogging my memory now. It came out like right at the beginning of GWAT,
Oh really?
like 2005.
Oh, interesting. I've never heard of this. Huh.
So that's a good bad one.
Okay. Yeah, good bad one.
I don't know. I can't. I'm coming a blank here on bad ones.
There's no shortage. I mean, I could go on. I could give you more. 6 was pretty bad. Valor was bad. There was a TV show. They made a comedy about the Army, and that was terrible. I don't even think it made it through a full season.
Really? Space Force was pretty bad.
Awesome. No, Space Force was awesome.
I mean, it was one of those shows where I got what they were going for, but it was so heavy-handed.
It was very heavy.
That was like, I get it, guys. Like a little bit of subtlety. I was a little disappointed, like from Greg Daniels and Steve Carell. Like I was expecting John Malkovich. Yeah, I was expecting The Office, but military.
Well, I think that's the thing is if they had just tried to make it The Office without the political weight, like you're right, it was very heavy-handed politically, and that sank it because a lot of people were interested in just having a laugh.
Yeah,
and if they just made you laugh,
all they would have had to do is just read like daily emails from some lieutenant to his commander, and they could have pulled. I mean, if they weren't classified or something, they could have pulled no telling how many countless episodes out of just that.
Endless episodes.
Or they could just go on and listen to it like an end of the day brief.
Oh, God.
Of course, Space Force probably doesn't have end of the day formations like the infantry does.
Do you know that there is a second lieutenant Kirk in the United States Space Force right now?
He'll never get to major. They'll give him his captain because they have to. And then
I saw a picture of him. It was like, if this man doesn't make captain, it'll be the greatest disservice in the United States military. Captain Kirk in the United States Space Force. Come on.
Which really that beckons the greatest military novel ever written, Catch-22.
We'll have to do a book.
We need to do a book
stream.
episode.
Yeah, we'll have to do a book one. Yeah,
Catch-22 and Breakfast of Champions. Even though Breakfast of Champions is explicitly a military novel, it is a military novel, but Catch-22 is absolutely drop dead hilarious. Yeah. And they tried to make a TV show out of it on Hulu.
And they did. Was that a TV show or was it a movie?
It was a show. So it was
really?
Like, yeah.
Okay.
And George Clooney was like the lead on it. I mean, it was a big deal. And I tried to watch the first episode, and like humor, especially the kind of humor that's in that novel is so difficult to convey. And the movie's been made a couple times. I think the
It
original movie
has,
came
yeah.
out in like the 50s, and then there was like a remake in the 70s or 80s. But it just, you can't capture the nuance of Catch 22, and when you try on screen, it just comes off as kind of contrite and a little hokey and a little forced.
Well, I
Cousin of
think so. The thing with the Catch 22 is, the best way to digest it is to read it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And if you're reading it for its literary value, you get a lot from it.
Hmm.
But if you aren't in the military, you
You
don't get the full value from Catch
you,
22.
you really don't. I mean, and I read Catch 22 in a guard tower in Iraq, and it was right when I was becoming really disenfranchised with the military and the whole system and everything. So it was perfectly timed for me, because I was like, this is exactly like nothing's changed. Like it's the exact same way now.
Right,
But yeah, you're right. I mean, it has a lot of literary value as a satirical novel,
right.
but it certainly has an added layer if you know exactly what he's talking about. Like I would say you can know what they're talking about, but to understand
Right, to
what he's talking
understand.
about
Right.
is a different ball of wax.
Well, and that's the thing is, if you're going to make a movie of it, the movie needs to cover that gap. It needs to cover the military understanding part, and none of the movies have.
Hmm.
The movies have basically just tried to retell the stories. Like, no, you need to give the military context, because so much of what's important. I don't know why we're talking about this still. It's not a TV show anyway, but you need to deliver the context anyway. So
Well, the same is true of TV shows. You need the context. You know,
You need the
sometimes
context.
you don't get the context, you get all the action a lot of the times.
So Chance said that there was a Canadian TV show about Roll 3 and CAF that was awful, and I have no trouble believing that.
Oh God, that sounds.
To our Canadian friends, we love you, but the only good TV show that's ever come out of Canada was the SWAT team show. Oh, and Letterkenny. That's true. Yeah, yeah. The one with the pink Power Ranger when she was a SWAT officer. That was good Canadian TV. Everything else, I'm sorry, guys.
You know, Ali and I always joke about it'd be great to be Canada famous. You know, because you could be wealthy and be well known and loved, but by 30 million people, and the rest of the world has no idea who you are. You can just go to anywhere else you want to. Nobody's gonna know. You're not gonna make the tabloids, but you're gonna have it made. Canada
This would
famous.
be this would be a great time to have a Robin Sparkles GIF if we had one handy.
Oh yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah, case in point.
Case in point. But yeah, so I guess we can start to talk about some of the ones that are kind of on the line. And the perfect one on the line. Actually, no, fuck that. We got one more bad one to talk about. The
What'd it be?
Punisher.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I'm gonna get my soapbox out. Let me get my soapbox. Put it out here. Let me step up on my soapbox, and then while you set the stage,
I'll set the stage.
I'm gonna top off my beer.
And we're gonna talk about this.
I'm gonna top off my beer. You set the stage.
Okay, I'll set the stage. We're gonna talk about this as a kind of a straddling episode, because there are things that I really enjoyed from the Punisher, and most of them had almost nothing to do with the military. I thought it was. I thought the main actor was awesome as the Punisher. He was convincing. He was brutal. It was super violent. It was a lot of fun to watch. I thought that the plot, the general plot, especially of the first episode, was really fun. But what fucked the Punisher up is their absolute refusal to try anything resembling accurately representing military service, specifically post-traumatic stress.
Yes. So
And
soapbox is out.
hold on. We'll keep you off your soapbox for a second.
Okay, I got it right here.
He's got it ready. Season 1 was really bad about that, and to the point where it actually involved a central theme of the plot of a soldier with post-traumatic stress being a villain. Because of his post-traumatic stress, he was a bad guy. And after season 1, I was like, okay, they did it. It didn't work. I really hope they don't do it again. And in season 2, they doubled down on it, and to me, it ruined the whole series. So, but Luke, I don't want to take any more away from your soapbox. Go.
So this is the exemplary show and use of that narrative that highlights a problem that I have always had a bone to pick with. I despise the portrayal of veterans in popular culture as these like crazy guys who are on the edge of their seat, always ready to pop off and go on a killing spree, or beat their wives, or or in the case of the Punisher, spoiler alert, build a bomb and try to blow yourself up. And it's just like it's this cheap, vapid, shitty portrayal of an entire community of people that are so much more complex than the one out of every 1,000 guys who is digging the foxhole in his backyard. Do you know anybody who's done that? Out of the hundreds of guys that we've known that have gone to combat, do you know anybody who has ever dug a fucking foxhole in their backyard?
The fact that they put that into a fucking like,
And
when
they
they
put it,
did that, I was like,
yeah.
oh my god,
And they were
come
dead serious about
on,
it. Like they were like
dead
dead
serious.
serious.
Yeah.
And this portrayal of veterans as a segment of our society that is inherently broken and that needs all this support and help. I mean, you do need support and help, but not the kind of bullshit. Sit around in a circle in a chair in a gymnasium like it's AA or something. Like,
Well, also that doesn't exist.
it doesn't. No.
Like
Yeah, you're getting
when
counseling one on one.
you counseling 1-on-1 or group counseling where there's like goals and homework. Like
Mhm.
I'm sure there are support groups where people sit around in a circle and talk about their feelings, but that's not therapy. That's not how
Yeah.
you get better.
And this
Oh my
this
gosh.
idea of like the guy who can't hack it, it drives me crazy because if you look at the vast majority of veterans and even combat veterans, and not just people like us who have one rough deployment, people who spent 20 years in special operations. I mean, those guys are kind of crazy, anyways. But they're totally capable and driven and determined, and they get out and they like create these brands or these companies, or they. It's a shitty, shoddy, poor excuse to cast off some cheap drama on a portion of our population that doesn't need any further demonizing or stereotyping from the American public.
Yeah.
So, but just because of that betrayal, and it was more prevalent maybe even 5 years ago, but especially like 10 years ago when the war was kind of in full swing and that was starting to become an issue or a more emerging ideal or narrative in our culture. But and that's when when I went back to school, I didn't tell anybody that I was a veteran because I didn't want the first thing that they had in their mind was the Hollywood fabrication of like the crazy guy in the basement with all of his guns who's like, freaking out because of the fireworks or whatever. Like I hated that so much. And I felt beleaguered by it because our society had crafted this idea. And so I refused to let that be the central thing to my narrative, to my identity. So when I went back to school, I didn't tell anybody I was a veteran, especially in academics, because they really want that to be the case. Some of them do, not all of them, but some of them. And
Well,
so,
it's just not the accurate portrayal of post-traumatic stress. For some people, it is. You're talking, like you said, the 1 in 1 million veterans where they are
mhm,
clearing the room at night with their freaking sidearm and almost shooting their kid or whatever.
mhm,
Pick whatever version of the stereotype that you want. It's not the prevalent demonstration of post-traumatic stress. The If you want to do a TV show on how post-traumatic stress affects people, just watch a whole bunch of veterans get real nervous walking into a crowded room.
yeah, or
Be
not
like,
wanting to go to a concert
or not wanting to go to a concert, or
or hating Walmart. Everybody hates Walmart, but
well,
veterans
everybody hates
especially hate
Walmart.
Walmart.
But like, and we'll talk about SEAL Team here in a little bit, but SEAL Team had a really good plot line about post traumatic stress
Hmm,
where, one of the main characters was struggling with it and he wouldn't talk about it because he was worried about what his command was going to think about it. And they did it in such a way that it made it a human, and it's like, hey, but he did it and he's still doing his job. These things exist. They don't make you a worse person. They don't ruin your lives just because they exist. And it was a good story arc talking about post traumatic stress.
mhm,
But very very few TV shows do. They, like you said, they use it as a cheap drama device.
mhm.
Um, oh man,
Yeah, it makes me livid because it's so much more than that, And if you have post traumatic stress, it's so much more complex than getting triggered at a loud noise. Like now, I will admit, like especially when I first got back, you know, like big old loud noise kickoff. You remember when we were going through reception,
yeah,
and it was like
Transformer Blue.
or whatever. Yeah, was it not reception, but reintegration?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And there was like the whole battalion was out there, and this transformer exploded, and all of Bravo Company hit the deck, and everybody else was just like, "Wait, what?"
Well, and Rob just posted this on Facebook, and he's absolutely right.
Mm,
And this is a little bit of a detour from the topic, but we'll address it. Facebook pages like disgruntled veterans, where people walk around like, "I'm a disgruntled veteran. Fuck you and fuck
mm,
everybody around you. Fuck that shit. I've whatever."
mhm.
Like we've always had a problem with that categorization of
I hate that
veterans.
too.
I hate
Yeah,
it. We call them vet bros.
vet bros.
They
Be
can
a better.
fuck off. Be a better veteran. Don't be that shit. Don't do that. It makes us all look bad. It makes you look bad. No one gives a shit. Like, really, at the end of the day, no one cares that you're a veteran.
It's like, man, yeah, if you
But like
were
shoving
a
it in people's
Marine
face.
in Iraq in 2006, like nobody fucking cares, man, because
No one
there's
cares.
thousands upon thousands upon thousands of others who have done the same thing.
And the thing is, there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of others that have done the same thing that are living normal lives that aren't calling everybody around them a pussy or trying
Mhm.
to act like you're better than anybody else. They're working in the cubicle next to you. They're your boss. They're the mechanic at the auto shop. They're the freaking real estate investor down the street.
They're your
They could
TA
be
in college.
your TA in college. Like they could be anywhere,
Yeah.
and they aren't being douchebags. So when you walk around like flopping your fake dick around, pretending to be something special, they know and they see you.
Yep.
And they know you're full of shit. So stop.
So because we all know the guy who the guys are guys who do that, and we all know what they did in combat.
Right. So
they fired 13 rounds in 9 months, or they
if that 13 rounds at the range to qualify,
or I couldn't get them to rip some suppressive fire on the enemy because they were too scared to pull the trigger. And they come home and they got their grunt style T-shirts on. And they go around Walmart. Their 3% sticker in their fucking window. If they're gonna do shit.
Yeah, we'll stay off of that track. But
yeah, that's
Rob,
too political.
I'm glad you posted that. It's a good point, and it is relevant because it does shape how these TV shows choose to portray. And The Punisher was really bad about it. It's a shame that that's the subplot that they chose to go with, because the rest of the show I really liked. I thought it was really true to the comics. I loved watching the Punisher story arc through Daredevil. I loved season 1 of the Punisher. Even the season 2 was pretty good.
Dude, but season 1, that's so brutal. Like it was so awesomely violent. Brutal. And like that last, it's season 1 where he's like, I think it's season 1. At the end where he's like tied up to the chair and you think the shit's really getting bad, and he just like goes on a murder rampage. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
We were just talking about stereotypes of veterans. Bro, his head exploded and it was awesome.
It was good though. So
it was good, yeah.
But it wasn't good because of the military aspect. So it was just a good comic book show with a shitty military backstory.
Yeah.
Another
quick side note.
Go for it.
If just on the off chance that anybody in Hollywood ever listens to this thing, don't have your dudes shoot on full auto. Unless it's a belt-fed machine gun. If they got an assault rifle, it's never shoot on full auto. It's never going to happen in real life.
Just at the range for funsies.
Yeah, that bugs the crap out of me too. It's been like, just like
unless you're talking like it's a Vietnam TV show.
Yeah, because they did it in Vietnam. But like the GWAT stuff or like the most recent stuff, like you're single shots. That's it. You're not going to be dumping a mag.
Because we changed our training to reflect that.
Yeah.
We don't push that selector the next 90 degrees over. There's no point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also if you are from Hollywood and watching this, we are available for consultation services.
Yes, very much so. We're happy to come tell you how to switch the selector over to full auto.
And we won't bring live ammo on the set.
Oh, too soon. Too
Dark.
Rip.
Anyway, so another one that kind of crosses the line, what we've mentioned is the unit. I liked a lot about the unit, but the idea that like an operator's wife is just going in to like the operator compound on Fort or whatever base this was. It wasn't Fort Bragg. And like sitting down in like the colonel in charge of the entire unit's office and telling him what to do. Like, fuck no.
Yeah.
She doesn't even get to go in that compound.
Now what was realistic, I know we were just talking about but debunking stereotypes, but the most realistic thing about that was when the commander was fucking the other dude's wife.
I don't think that's the most realistic part.
Hey, Rod, if he was a sergeant major, I would have believed it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. except in that like everybody's a sergeant major, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's true.
But no, I mean it was enjoyable. I like that they tried. I mean, there were a lot of times when they talked to the missions in the episodes were based on real missions that had happened in like the
Hmm.
70s. Um, I thought that was cool, and I like that there was an actual Delta guy that was advising. But it's just the introduction of all the family drama
Hmm.
is just like, okay, come on, like there was one. It was like one of the first episodes, and the wife of one of the new operator, I can't remember his name.
Bob,
Brown, Bob. Yep, there you go,
so
Bob Brown.
generic.
And she was like, and this is a guy that had come from another special operations unit. It's like, that was like he just like joined the army day one, was in
Mm.
fucking Delta, and like she's like getting checked in. She's like, I'm gonna live on base. I'm gonna do this, and they're like, she's like, I need to know where my husband is right now. I was like, no, what are you for?
Oh yeah,
They tried to create a show that I think that what their goal was to create a show that men and their wives could watch together
yeah,
and both get something out of it.
yeah.
And I
Failed
can't
on.
I can't believe it made it 5 seasons.
Yeah,
To
it
be
probably failed
honest,
on both fronts. I mean, they maybe they were just infusing a little bit of Army Wives into their scripts. It's around the same time that show was
it,
coming out.
they were both on at the same time. I never
Yeah,
watched Army Wives, so I couldn't give you any kind
I
of
didn't either,
info
but
on
I
it.
could imagine. Yeah,
I'm sure it was pretty terrible.
it's probably like,
But here's an interesting connection. The one of the main characters in Army Wives was the chick from Jag. And
oh really?
Jag was a great military TV show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I forgot about Jag, and I had a big following back in the day
It
too. Like
was a
people
good
loved that
show.
show. Yeah,
It was
making.
a good. They did a good job of blending like the serial nature of TV shows.
Hmm.
So there was drama, especially between him and the chick and
Hmm.
whatever. Um, but it wasn't the main story. Like
Mm,
all these cases were the main stories. Him trying to become a pilot again were the main stories.
yeah.
I thought it did a good job of like when 9/11 happened, they just kind of they built it into their narrative and they moved forward. I mean, it
Mm.
went for a while after 9/11.
Did it really? Hmm. Those did a really good job of glorifying the people who are just trying to motherfuck the poor little euphoria who's trying to do his job.
Yeah.
Or the motherfuck the guy who's put 20 years in and slipped up once, and they're refusing to promote him and basically force him to retire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then and Jag essentially became NCIS.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like a technical like crossover. They
Yeah.
technically are in the same universe or
Mm.
whatnot. But I've never watched NCIS, so I can't speak to it. But
I watched it back when it first started coming out because I was like a freshman in college and I was bored and like somebody had the DVDs. And so I binged like probably 2 or 3 seasons. I wouldn't call it a military show.
no, and that's what's weird about it. It's like it's a group of civilians that are investigating military crimes, but
Hmm.
more often than not, they're not even. Are they even military members that they're chasing most of the time? Or is it like former military?
I honestly can't remember.
I,
It was basically CSI, just a spinoff. That's
okay,
basically what it was. Like
fair enough.
I think the idea is that they were most often like involved in the military thing somehow, or it happened on base or
Oh yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's like some sort of off connection
Yeah.
to the military, not directly,
Yeah,
but
actually, when I look back on it now, like 18-year-old Luke was definitely watching it for the Israeli chick.
oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, she's like the Israeli commando who
Yeah,
came.
yeah,
She's all
yeah.
badass and stuff.
That's right. That's right. I forgot
Mm,
about that.
I didn't.
I didn't watch the show that much. So it's a stretch. Um, yeah. So I like Jag. Unit was a good crossover. Let's talk about ones that do it well, and let's not like go like with the half-ass ones. The ones that did it really well. For
Mm,
me, there are three that stand out as
oh,
superb,
okay.
and that's Band of Brothers, The
Yep.
Pacific, and Generation Kill.
Yes. Yes. I would 100% agree with you. Now, granted, you and I weren't storming the beaches of Iwo Jima or in the Battle of the Bulge, but yeah, I mean, well, for one, the Pacific is the same folks. It's Tom Hanks and Spielberg and all those
Right.
people throwing their weight behind it.
Right.
But as Band of Brothers, I should clarify. Generation Kill, you and I can relate to because it is hands down
The
the
most
most
accurate. Yeah.
accurate portrayal of the infantry lifestyle.
Mhm.
Not so much the combat. Well, maybe in Invasion
I would
Iraq. I mean,
I
they were
would say
steamrolling dudes.
yeah, they were
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
I take that back. Yeah.
I think Generation Kill is great. Actually, here's one thing that all three of those shows have in common that makes them great. Their
Mm,
focus is on the soldiers.
yeah, yeah.
They're not trying to like document the entire campaign or look at all the little pieces. They're not
Hmm.
trying to make all these guys into like super soldiers. They're not all
Hmm.
Delta operators repelling from helicopters. Like it's just a dude from
Yeah.
New York and his buddy from Queens trying to do their job while
Hmm.
trying to avoid their douchebag CO with their lieutenant who's really fucking cool.
Hmm.
Like Band of Brothers is superb.
Band of Brothers is the military TV show. Like that is the one. Like that's the one you
Yeah.
look to for the quality and the standard. And I would imagine the portrayal as well. Obviously, you and I can never imagine what it would have been like, but
Right.
I would think that the portrayal had to have been pretty spot on.
If anything, just not as brutal as it probably really was.
That's a very good point.
Probably toned down,
Yeah,
just because
you have
again,
to
like
for TV.
well,
Yeah,
one you have to. Well, it's HBO. They could have done whatever they wanted,
yeah, but still,
but still, when it gets to a certain point, it's just distracting.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, those really stand out to me as superb military television dramas, and it's not a coincidence that they're all, um, basically miniseries,
hmm
and they were on premium networks. So
yeah,
they're basically just really long movies.
really long movies. And there's a really poignant scene in the Pacific that I remember, and I've only watched it one time, so I don't have a very clear memory of it. But there's a scene where like it's the Japanese are getting really desperate, and the Marines are online at some canal or something, and the Japanese are doing just like a last minute charge to try and rush these dudes, and they smoke them all. They just destroy them. But then there's like one guy left, and he's like up to his chest in water,
Yep.
and he's trying to do something, and they all stop shooting, and he would start to move one way, and the couple of the assholes in the group were just fucking with him and shooting around him or whatever, and he gets frustrated. He's like and just throws his shit down. And for me, like that scene, like, could you imagine being pushed to the point of desperation where like you're gonna die, and
And you
then
can't even get an honorable death.
and you can't get an honorable
Yeah.
death, and like you're just being fucked with, and like there's nothing you can do. Like you're but to have that amount of frustration, like I think you and I probably experienced that frustration to a very, very much smaller degree, where you just have no control anymore. That was a damn fine scene.
Yeah. It reminds me of a recurring nightmare, and I know for a fact that every combat veteran, and I don't mean like I would deploy to a combat zone. I mean every combat veteran who has found themselves in a situation where they had to fire their rifle in self-defense
Mm,
or in a firefight, a real firefight, like caught in the open, exposed, you have to fight or you're going to die,
hmm
is the dream where you're in that same kind of situation and you pull the trigger and nothing happens.
Nothing.
It's click,
Or
click, click.
you
Or you
can't.
got somebody in your sight and you're pulling the trigger and the gun's not working.
Yeah. Well, for me, the one I have all the time. Funnily enough, when I was in Afghanistan, in my dreams, I was laying waste. It was no problem. But once I got back to the real world and I got time separated from it, when I would have these dreams, like I couldn't pull the trigger, or I would like it'd be like pulling a. It's like I was trying to lift a concrete block with my trigger finger,
Yeah,
and I couldn't get it. Or if I had somebody on my sides, it would be like shaking around and then pull the shot.
right. So that scene to me is the manifestation of that same level of frustration.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
and it's a little bit different because there's like you said there's the aspect of honor and like
Hmm.
just complete desperation. But it kind of captures the same emotion for me personally, is that
Yeah,
just like I'm just trying here and everything is working against me.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a phenomenal scene. That's one of
yeah,
the probably one of the best of the entire series.
yeah, yeah. And
Um,
somebody finally takes pity on the dude and decks him
yeah,
and doesn't laugh at
and
him.
chastises the people that were
Yeah,
being
yeah,
dicks.
yeah.
So yeah, those three stand out. Actually, we need to go back. There's another one that was bad. Oh,
Hmm.
not bad, kind of on the line. And that was Homeland.
Yeah, it's a military show though.
It kind of was,
Kind of.
kind of. But it was more of a spy show,
Hmm.
but the fact that at least for the first 3 seasons, the main character, the one that was the prisoner, was a Marine sniper.
Marine. Yeah, that's
So
true.
they would do a lot of flashbacks and stuff like that. But there was a lot of issues. And this was more of a CIA show, so we'll just leave that one off. But yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
uh,
Another good one, MASH.
MASH. I haven't watched MASH in so long. I know I've not watched a single episode since before I joined the military. So
See, MASH was great because MASH didn't take itself too seriously.
yeah,
Um, and MASH was like more like a hospital drama with a military backdrop.
yeah. But they would also have those random moments where like shit got real. Like got
And
really heavy.
they handled those really well.
Yeah. Hmm.
There would be time, and I can't remember the specific episode, when like the war came to the camp.
Yeah.
Like they actually had real like very bad casualties coming in. But most of the show they were doing like routine surgeries, right?
Hmm.
But every once in a while it would get very real, and they did a good job of,
Mm.
I don't know, just kind of being like, hey, this is a comedy, but this is a
Mm.
really serious topic.
I mean, what's really crazy about MASH, man, that was about the forgotten war.
Korean War. Mhm.
Korean War, and
You
they
could watch
created.
that and understandably just assume it was about Vietnam too.
Yeah, I know. And I was a little kid when that came on. I just assumed it was about Vietnam. I didn't know any better. But it also created one of the most iconic opening title sequences and theme songs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, MASH is a good one.
Hmm.
Let's see other good ones. All right, we'll talk about SEAL Team finally.
Okay, because I've not watched a single episode. I watched a couple clips on the YouTubes, but I haven't watched like the actual show.
I had zero expectations
Hmm.
when I first started watching it. I was like, this will be something fun to watch to eat dinner while I watch.
Hmm.
It was, and you're right. It came out at the same time as that Six TV show,
Hmm.
and then there was that other like the Agency or the Division or whatever that came out that was terrible.
Hmm.
But and whatever. It's a movie about Navy or a TV show about Navy SEALs, so you get all kind of the Navy SEAL stuff. But what I really, really appreciated about it is they tried to connect to the community.
Yeah.
So like when you watch the episodes, you'll see like the guys are wearing shirts of like veteran-owned companies. Like they'll constantly be reaching out to veteran-owned companies, just like, hey, we want to wear your stuff. We want to do this, and they do presentations. I remember one of the main characters has a dog. So their military working dog, Dita, him and the dog, like he was only really even on the show because he was the dog's handler. Now he's now he's the main character on the show, and the dog's
really?
not even on the show anymore. But they would go and they would do charity stuff. They would work with the military working dog charities. So they made a real effort to get involved in the community, and to the point where like the main characters now, like they kind of carry themselves like you would expect somebody to. Granted, it's a TV show. There's all kinds of liberties taken, but in the last couple of seasons, they've done a really good job talking about post-traumatic stress, veteran homelessness. They did an episode. It was pretty wild, actually. Like I don't know how they put this together so fast, but like a month ago, they did an episode where they parachuted back into Afghanistan after the fall of Afghanistan.
Oh, really?
And it was really weird because they're like assaulting Jalalabad airfield, and like Taliban's running around on like razors. And it was just a really cool thought exercise. And obviously they took a chance to get cheesy with it and like sitting on the C-17 afterwards, like, man, was it really a waste? Or was it like this? And what I liked about it was they basically bought into our message was it wasn't a waste. And they had this like roundtable discussion on the show. I mean, it was kind of cheesy, but about how we just did our jobs. It's not our job. This was the politicians and it was the generals. And it was very in sync with like the military community. It was as if they polled the military community. What are your thoughts on the war on terror ending like this?
I mean, what actually? So you're being humble. What actually happened is the producer saw our Facebook post about that got us Facebook famous for a couple days, and he was like, "I'm going to pull this and put it in the episode."
Yeah, probably. It was pretty close. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But they've just done a really good job of talking about these topics. It's gone from being just like a bunch of Navy SEALs going out and kicking ass, and like they're tackling difficult topics, and they're not just. It's not just about these, however many guys are on the show going out and shooting people. They,
Mm.
in the last episode, one guy's like, "Hey man, I got to step back for a couple months. I've been putting off these surgeries for years, and my body is broken. I have to
Mm.
take care of myself." Like, who says like that's not something you would expect someone to say on a TV show
TV
about
show.
Navy SEAls, but
Yeah.
that's something that's actually happened. I mean, that's something that if TV shows and movies represent military members like that and they normalize that type of behavior, then
Mm.
guys will feel like, hey, I can do that. I can take the time to
Mm.
take a knee and get myself healthy, whether it's mentally or physically.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. So maybe the finale, the push here, is what they can improve on. So you think about that, ponder on it. I'm gonna pee and grab a beer.
Well, I got to talk while you're going to pee and grab a beer.
Yeah, you can do it.
All right. So while Luke services his tiny bladder, what can I don't know for those 5 of you that are in the comments? What can TV shows do better? And I'll give you a second to respond. But I know for me, it would simply be better represent the individual soldier, or airman, or marine, or sailor, or whatever, and what they personally deal with, as opposed to it always being like some mission or some grand scheme or whatnot. I don't know. It's kind of hard when it's just me talking. I know that. What can we do better? I think training, firearms training. So here's another good one that I'll talk about that I think did it really well. There was a TV show called Strike Back. And Strike Back was a TV show. Okay, it was a Tito. Okay, you know what? That's a really good one. So, yep, Craig and Otito both have really good recommendations. So Otito says, I'll put it up here.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of TV shows are focused more on special operations and cool guy shit. Focus on more some 19-year-old grunt in a difficult situation, far more interesting. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that the special operations community has more than received its fair share of television and movie appearances, and then I would love to see more things that are focused more on the grunt or the lowest level. The problem is, and then we kind of mentioned this early in the episode, is that 98% of the time as a 19-year-old grunt is fucking boring. And nobody wants to make that TV show.
Yeah. I think what you got to do is you got to lean into the humor part.
Or just, if you want, just pick an event. So there's probably a great miniseries out there about whatnot, or Cop Keating. Obviously there's already movies and stuff being made about that stuff, but you can choose to represent periods of time that aren't boring as fuck, and still focus on the lowest level guys. I mean, the Battle of Ramadi, Fallujah, the invasion of Iraq, the invasion of Afghanistan, Operation Medusa, Operation Anaconda.
I mean, yeah, I agree. But I'm going to disagree with you a little bit here, because I think that, to echo what you mentioned earlier about Band of Brothers and Generation Kill, if they leaned into the characters,
right?
And
Yes,
if they built the
yes.
show, like you could imagine, let's just have a hypothetical. You could do a Panjwai show if you built the show on the characters of the soldiers, because every 2 or 3 episodes somebody's getting fucked up. So there's that emotional connection to the character getting sent home or losing a leg or whatever. I feel like if you could get a character drama in there with a lot of humor, that would like reflect the infantry lifestyle and the infantry demeanor, which would not translate to normal TV. It'd have to be on HBO or something.
Sure.
And
well,
then
I would say but you still need to put it against the backdrop of something interesting. Like you can't, like there was a TV show and Tom mentioned it in the comments that I remember what it was called Enlisted. And it was a sitcom about a bunch of enlisted guys in garrison.
Yeah.
Like, fucking murder me. Like, of course no one watched that show.
Yeah. Oh man.
So, but but if you set it against the backdrop, like you said, of Panjwai or Operation Medusa, there's something larger going on in the background that justifies the characters being there.
Yeah.
So it kind of captures the attention a little bit, and then, but you're right, focus on the individual characters, focus
Mm-hmm.
on what are they going through, like, but don't try to make it so broad that you're trying to tell the whole story, or like,
Yeah.
I don't need to see like the scene of the wife writing the letter to him or whatever.
No, I mean you almost do like a let's just return to Panjwai for poops and giggles. Excuse me. And and there's another thing, another reason the miniseries works instead of an actual ongoing um, normal TV series is that a miniseries can capture the lead up to that one moment. You
Right.
know, so let's just pretend that they did a show on the 2012 deployment. You could capture that deployment in 8 1-hour episodes, and the final episode, the final 2 episode, or the final episode that's like an hour and a half long is October 4th.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Right.
so there's um
Which is
it
basically
would
what Generation Kill did.
yeah
Generation.
yeah
It's the same concept. I mean, and that's what Generation Kill did so well. It's like
hmm
you got to know each of those characters, and they did such a good job of like illustrating like why everybody hates the Sergeant Major and why the Sergeant Major wants to be hated.
yeah
In some cases, like it did a really good job of illustrating that. But if you don't set a stop to it, you're like, we're making 8 episodes and then it's done.
that's it.
Then you're just gonna start making shit up
Yeah,
to
and that's where they
continue
all
being
fall
on the
apart.
TV. Right.
Yeah, that's where they all fall apart. It's like you're gonna have the wife fucking the commander, and you're gonna have the random bullshit that they infuse into it because it's TV or whatever. So it has to be
Right.
that focused or whatever.
Craig says stop having the vet be the bad guy of the show. I agree. I think we covered that pretty well in the Punisher rant.
Yeah.
Um, also counterpoint. Stop
Stop having to be the
making them
hero.
all be fucking heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. Like if you did it, let's say they didn't do this in SEAL Team, but they should do this in SEAL Team. One of the dudes on the SEAL Team should be a complete fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
Just a complete self-righteous,
Yeah.
like tail chasing, book writing piece of shit. If you really want it to be accurate, like
Yeah.
obviously we're veterans, we love veterans, we have
I know.
support veterans,
I
but
support them, I don't love them.
a lot of you are pieces of shit.
Yeah.
A lot of us are pieces of shit.
Yeah.
So we need to be a little bit more accurate. It's like, okay, like
You need that
calm
10 to 15% of guys who are just total complete garbage.
right. You got to balance
Yeah.
it out. They can't all be like super villains
Mhm.
or like
Captain
freaking
America.
Captain America. Like
Yeah.
there's a middle ground.
Yeah.
Craig says they did it once and the guy got kicked out of the team. I do kind of remember that subplot. They recruited a guy, but I don't think he got kicked out of the SEALs. He just got kicked off of their team. He was only on the show for like 2 episodes. So you need to keep the shitbag around.
Yeah. Actually, you need to promote the shitbag so that he becomes the guy who's in charge of you.
That's if you
Yeah.
really want to be accurate.
Now we're just military bashing.
Chance,
No more fireball explosions. Yeah, amen to that.
Dear Hollywood, when things blow up, they're just a lot of dirt and
Yeah.
dust everywhere. I have seen fireball explosions, but they were massive.
Massive.
Like they were what the only way you get a fireball explosion is if that explosion is either all gasoline
Mm-hmm.
or it's so big that there's not enough dirt to like cloak the fireball.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
Michael Bay.
You know what? The greatest irony about Michael Bay movies is every explosion looks like a transformer exploding.
It
I'm not for all of you more dense participants out there. I'm not talking about the robots. I'm talking about a electric transformer outside hanging on a pole.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, but what's interesting is, Michael Bay made okay, that's a movie discussion, so we'll stay away from it. Anyway, let's see. Okay, so so that was some of our feedback from our chat. As far as what we can do better And
Where
like
so let's start with this. Fireball explosions are a good example. What areas have shows improved, not in terms of the storytelling, but just in terms of the actual technical stuff, like the gear and the guns and stuff like that?
two areas for me. One is the sound.
Mm.
I have
Mm.
noticed a dramatic improvement in the sound authenticity of gunfights
Mm-hmm.
since Lone Survivor. Lone Survivor was a very good
Dude.
one,
Yeah.
and it's like once they did that, and it actually won 2 awards.
Oh,
Like
it did for
it won
sound editing or
for
whatever.
sound design,
Yeah.
or it was nominated or something. And then I think that kind of caught people's attention. Like whatever they did, we need to do that now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. The other thing is I'm noticing a lot of military TV shows recently. They're now trying. So I was talking about Strike Back briefly while you were in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Strike Back was not a very good show in terms of like its content. It was kind of like whatever. It was a spy drama, but you can tell that they sent those two guys to a lot of training
Mm-hmm.
because their tactics and the way that they carried themselves, they were bounding backwards in firefights. They were doing flanking maneuvers. Like it was like the scene in Heat, the
Oh
gunfight
yeah.
in the
So
city. It
good.
was such a good gunfight.
Yeah.
But it would be like every episode there'd be a gunfight like that. I was like, this is so cool. Like that's exactly how you would fight. Like you're not just
Mm-hmm.
standing there duking it out. You're moving. You're bounding backwards or you're bounding forwards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm seeing that a lot more. I think SEAL Team has it pretty well under control. You're seeing it in a lot more, even just in shows that aren't military shows anymore. Like you'll see, like when they show the military scene,
Actually look like they
everyone's
know what they're doing.
they look like they know what they're doing. So
Yeah.
whoever's out there training and like advising on movies in the last like 5 or 6 years,
Yeah. And I
I've
think
noticed improvement.
yeah, I agree. That's an area that has improved a lot. Um, and I think it's improved in a very particular way in that they're doing a better job of making you believe the tactics without showing the actual stuff because actual tactics sometimes can be a little boring to watch. Like it wouldn't translate to
Right.
screen well, you know.
Yeah, Battlefield
So
1 Alpha isn't made for TV.
yeah, and neither is like leaning half of your face out of behind a wall because you pay a lot of money for that actor's face. You want half their body out behind that wall, but
Right.
but when they're guns up and they're behind their optic and they're selling that believability, they're doing a pretty good job of striking that balance of making it entertaining without making it dull. Or because if you want to be super hyper realistic when you're in a gunfight, all you're doing is hanging out behind a wall until the shooting stops.
And then yeah, right. Well, and
It-
Otito, he's got a really good point here.
Mm.
Remember TV shows like in the 80s when you got
Oh
shot,
my
you flew back
gosh.
30
Yeah.
feet flailing. Let me tell you what happens when you get shot.
You drop like a
You
sack of taters.
drop like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what happens when you think you've been shot. You drop like a sack of potatoes. It's the same thing.
Yeah, gravity does its work. When you're a 200-pound man with 115 pounds of crap on, and your world comes to a halt, gravity does the work really fast.
Gravity
Yeah.
does the work. So yeah, that's a really good observation. I mean, movies and TV show both over time, and I can't really point to a specific movie that did it. Black Hawk Down definitely was a revolutionary movie in terms of they sent all those guys to like
Hmm.
the very intensive training so they
Hmm.
looked like Rangers and Delta guys, and that movie won all kinds of awards. So people started doing that, and then they did the same thing for Lone Survivor. I think that movies like John Wick and stuff like that, where it just looks cool when they know what they're doing,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
compared to like the 80s where Arnold's got two M60s
Schwarzenegger.
underneath his freaking armpits, just which was cool in the 80s, but
Yeah.
like I don't know.
I mean, I remember as a teenager, because I was a military nerd when I was like 15, because I was like an insecure, angry teenager. So, naturally that was where I focused my attention. But, this is in Iraq's in full swing, Afghanistan's in full swing. And I would get really frustrated because I wanted to see like the real shit on TV or in movies. And there was like this weird lag of a few years where they were still shooting iron sights or shooting from the hip or whatever. And then it's like weird how that the realism kind of filtered down into the popular culture stuff. So that the tactics and the weapons, that was a big one.
I think John Wick can own a portion of that.
Yeah. But
I
even
th-
before then, it started to filter in.
It started to filter.
Like people started to get red dots on their guns. things
Mhm.
like that. Yeah,
Uh, hmm, trying to think when you start seeing that stuff in TV shows, though.
24 maybe. Not realistic tactics, but like the
Mm-hmm.
guns and the
Yeah,
weaponry
the
and
gun. Yeah,
everything.
24 is a good one. Um,
The unit.
the unit might be. Yeah, I mean that
Yeah.
might be. That honestly, the timeline works. Count. I mean, it's early 2000s.
Hmm.
You know, as much as like we've ragged on it, I mean the actual tactics part, I
Yeah, and the
thought they
gear.
did pretty good. The gear, yeah. I mean,
I will say, like from the clips I've watched on the SEAL Team 6, is it just SEAL Team?
just SEAL Team. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, the gear on that show is really sharp.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
They've
legit. Like it's what those. I mean, it's
it's
not literally what, but what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They've come a long way.
Yeah.
I don't know, like when I watch a TV show and it has any kind of military aspect, the things that always turn me off is what like, and I know this is stupid, but like if the uniforms are blatantly wrong,
Yeah.
if the guns are blatantly wrong, if the dudes don't, if the people that are portraying military members don't fit the mold,
Yeah.
I get it. We should all be able to wear beards and long hair and be in the military. I agree, we should, but we can't. So when you put somebody in a helicopter flying a Black Hawk for 160th, and the dude has like literally Luke's haircut and
Doesn't
my
work.
beard, you
Yeah.
can't believe it. It totally it takes me out of it
Mm,
immediately. So like the minuscule amount of efforts, get the uniforms right, get the guns right, get the freaking like appearances right
mm.
at a minimum.
You know what my favorite back in the ACU days that Hollywood was notorious for was the collar. The collar turned up and velcroed.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean that's something that's improved a whole lot. Tactics, believable tactics, I guess. And gear.
Yeah.
Now the next thing is explosion and no more full auto.
Explosion, no more full auto, um, and focus on the characters.
Yeah,
Let's focus on them. All right. Well, I think that's a. I don't know. What you got? Anything else to add? Anything else in the chat?
I got nothing.
All right.
We've
Well,
covered we covered the TV show spread.
covered the TV show spread. If you disagree with us, you're probably right, and we're probably wrong.
No. And remember, unlike our antagonist in The Punisher and countless other portrayals, be a better veteran.
Yep. Be a better veteran. Don't be a disgruntled
Yeah.
veteran.
Go throw away your infantry, your gun style T-shirt, and get a normal one that doesn't have a brand on it like this.
Wear whatever you want. Just don't be a douche. All right, guys. We're gonna hop off here. We got episodes to record, and remember season 3 is starting on January 3rd, 2022. And we're looking forward to a very successful season 3 in spring 2022. So keep your eyes out for that. We'll probably have a couple more live streams before the end of the year to keep keep your attention. We've already identified we probably need to do a book one, so stand by for that.
Cheers.
Cheers.